Good evening. Thank you for joining us. My name is Bradley Shaw from Shoreline Publishing Group. I'm here with one of our authors, Reece Pocock, who's written and released recently a wonderful book called REFUGEE. And he's here to talk to us tonight about it and share his experiences, thoughts, and his challenges and enjoyments of writing this book. So thank you for joining us, Reece.
Yeah, that's fine.
So jumping straight in, if you like, what do you feel if you were discussing writing to a writing group or a collective of new writers? What would you describe some common traps to them? What would you call some common traps in writing?
Well, I think first of all, expecting too much, I guess, is the first thing. Mm-hmm. But traps. I think you've just got to concentrate on your characters, mm-hmm. make sure that they're going well, and concentrate on yourself. Make sure you're feeling right about writing the book. Mm-hmm. You've got to remember you're going to entertain somebody for 8 or 9 hours, and that is really difficult to do. And you're going to entertain them with your story, with how your story comes together, and it's a really good feeling to be able to do that. And particularly if your book is well received and you see some good reviews, or people just come up to you and say, "I love your book." That's what it is. That's what you're trying to achieve.
Very good.
And you mustn't ever get away from that.
Yeah. Very good. Did you when you were tell us about writing REFUGEE? Did you find using that advice yourself that you were conscious of that entertainment value in the book, the character developments in the book?
Maybe not in the beginning so much. I just wanted to write the story because my half-brother had been to the war, even though it was many, many years after the war that I wrote the book, and I've had a little bit of military service. But I didn't want to write a book about war. I wanted to write about the characters in the war, like the people, how they're dealing with, the pressures and so forth that are in the war. Yeah. And I also wanted to suggest that there might be some history that Australians ought to be looking at, to have a look at, as well as trying to make the book entertaining. Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I was aiming for. Okay. Hopefully I achieved it.
So how long did you find researching the book, like for this sort of book?
Oh, a lot. What happened was, before I really wrote much, I did a hell of a lot of research. Mm. Unfortunately, I did too much because I only used a fraction of it. Of it. So I read books, I did interviews, I did everything. I did a tremendous amount of research before I even sort of started. Yeah. These days, I tend to write to a certain point and then research it and then go back and do it. But when I did this book, because in the end, it took 15 years for me to get it out. Yeah. Mainly because I wrote it, wasn't happy, went and did my advanced diploma, mm-hmm. And it was actually presented up there as a negotiated project, and we all discussed it. Good. And then I think the turning point was I had the protagonist as Bill Kelly, mm-hmm. But when I changed it around to the German to Rolf. Yeah. The book came together a lot better because it was really about Rolf's story. Mm. How he left Germany, how he came to Australia, how he fell in love, and that was about it. Yeah. There are a lot of other things around the characters that I think are interesting too, because there are other romances, and there's a fair bit of Bill's story in there as well. Yeah.
No, it's interesting that you say that. You wrote, that's one of the things I liked about the book that took a different spin, was that you wrote the protagonist as a German coming to Australia and his perception of Australia. So you weren't actually saying, this is being Australian, you were saying, this is how a German sees Australia. So you really had to give yourself the contrast of that character, your culture background of his own to come to our culture. So there's a really interesting arc in that development with him.
Yeah, and Germans. I went in we've got a German club here in Adelaide, and I went in there and spoke to some of them. They're really, really proud of their language.
Oh yeah.
And they're extremely proud of the different dialects and stuff within the German, which I didn't really understand.
Yeah.
So I minimised what I had to do as far as using German words, things like that. But I like I like doing that because I think it gave the novel a lot more authenticity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Was it challenging for you as well, having such strong male characters, to write the female character to balance that? Like, as a male author, writing opposite sex characters, did you find that a challenge in that degree, or did you get some advice from a woman to help you understand that sort of situation?
Yes, I did write them up further, and I got some suggestions from Marilyn, my wife, and my sister-in-law about that stuff. But I mostly did okay with that, I think. And I think males can write female characters pretty well, and of course, female can. And I wanted to make them strong, which the three women that are sort of in relationships with the males are strong. So, and that was the main thing I thought would get me through that.
Sure. And it's not it's just the intricacies of women characters. Like for men, sometimes we're a bit more black and white, whereas ladies often have a different intuitional element in their character or an instinct in their characters that we don't generally always have. So I was just curious if you found those elements challenging, or the feedback from that on the women characters.
It is challenging, but mostly you build the character into the character. Mostly they've got a goal. Of what they want to do, and basically going after that goal. And I don't know. It sort of comes together, okay? So.
No, it's good. It's good.
Yeah.
So did you find the dynamics of the story worked really well, or was there any parts where you felt you had to do a lot of rewriting, or did you find the book easy to write, or were there difficulties?
No, it certainly wasn't easy to write because I got a lot of it wrong. And I had to rip it to bits and sort of go again. So no, it definitely wasn't easy to write. But once it sort of started to come together, I thought, now this is working. Of course, when you show it to particularly my wife, it's not working. But
wait,
that's right. So anyway, but and of course, it was always enjoyable because I wanted to show Australian soldiers as they were, and also the women, and as they were, Australian women as they were. Usually they're all fairly strong, but it just sort of came together after a while. But of course, don't forget, it was the first book I've ever written. So and I had to go away and write other books to get the skill right, and also do a 4-year course to get my advanced diploma of professional writing. So all of that happened whilst I was writing it.
So when did you decide you wanted to be a writer? You said, was it something in an inspirational moment, or were you doing it all along, or what was your goal?
Well, I think it comes from reading. I read a lot when I was younger, mostly like cowboy books and stuff like that, and detective. Pulp fiction, if you like, a lot of that stuff, which got me going. And when I was about 25, I did a short story course. But the short stories didn't work. I couldn't get it right. So, of course, later on, I became a prize winner of short stories. But at that time, no. You know when it doesn't work. So that's what I did. And then, of course, later, I started basically writing this story. And then I thought, this is not working too well either. So actually, I went off and got a lot of knowledge about the task of writing and that. So I found it that a lot easier. I always loved the story. I always loved the character of Rolf and Bill, which I built everything around, and that was the thing I think that got me through all of this. You've got a couple of good characters here. You've got to stick to this. Keep it going. And some of the people suggested I cut down a bit of the war scenes and stuff like that, and the graphic of it.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, I thought that'll make the story not work properly. So I left it in there. I know some people won't like it, but well, that's the way it is. But a lot of people seem to be happy with it.
Well, authenticity is important in any story, and I think to have a reflection of that element. Their characters are based from that experience of the war.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So
So I had some really good characters to work with. That's why I think it keeps getting you through. The story comes along after that. Yes.
So, how long on average does it take you to write a book? I mean, you said this one took you 15 years, but that's because
probably about a year.
But yeah,
usually you put the story together in about 4 months, and then you have to edit it, look at it, talk to people about it. So usually about 12 months.
Yeah. And so, how many hours a day is that on average for you, like for writing? Are you doing it full time now? Is it, or are you?
Basically, but I haven't been. I've been doing a lot of editing and rewriting of all of the books that I've written before.
Yep.
I'm hoping to present them to you later, but so I've rewritten a lot of that stuff.
Sure.
And so just recently I've been doing that.
Yep.
But when I'm going, and I've just started writing a new one. In fact, I've got a screenplay that I'm turning into a novel.
Yep.
Yeah. The tentative title is The Taliban Conspiracy. So we'll just see how it goes. I won't tell you what it's about now, but I've just started to do that, and that's where you get good. You do get sick of editing, even though it is a process you have to go through.
Yeah.
But there you go. You just do what you can do. Yeah.
Yeah. So in the writing process you talk about, do you find it is an energizing experience, or is it an exhausting experience? Like when you sit those many hours creatively?
Well, yeah, I get pretty tired after about 5 hours of it.
Yeah.
And usually I like to do it in the morning and try and sort of come down in the afternoon.
Yeah.
That's if I haven't got any work to do for the job that I'm doing as well. But you get really stuck into it. Try and get up as early as you can.
Yep.
You do what you have to do, and sometimes Maren wants some vacuuming or something like that.
Got your chores, yep.
That's right. Anyway, I do that, and then I get stuck into it.
Yep.
Because I'm working too. Sometimes the phone rings and you have to deal with that. But then again, you can get back into it. Yeah. You know where you're going with it. You've got your plan for it.
Definitely.
You have to have a plan for the whole thing, even though you deviate.
Yeah.
But I do a lot more seat of the pants writing than just writing everything down like a lot of people do.
Like the planning.
Yeah, because I found that if I do that, I change it so much that But I guess that's not a problem.
Yeah.
But you change it a lot. But I just love writing that stuff. Yeah.
That's good. That's the important thing. You gotta love it. I mean, if you weren't writing, do you think there'd be anything you'd love as much? Like, what else would you think of doing if you weren't writing?
Oh, I don't know. Well, travelling, I suppose, but that requires funds. It's not a terribly at the moment. It's not terribly lucrative. So, but it's something you can do when you're home.
Yeah.
And if you go out, well, Christ, it's a great idea to go out for lunch, for dinner and stuff like that. But but I do like I've got interest I'm interested in the footy and cricket and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I love that stuff.
So you'd be a professional sportsman?
Well, yes. I remember one day.
Professional golfer?
I remember one day. Well, I'm always into cricket.
Yeah.
I applied for this job, and the guy said to me, "What's your dream job?" I said, "Oh, well, I'd like to play cricket for Australia."
There you go.
Oh, he said, "Oh, that's interesting." I didn't get a job.
You should have told him your name was Gary Bradman or something. So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. What would you say if you're, as a writer, what would be one of the interesting quirks that you have as a writing habit? Like as you some writers have pens, some writers have a coffee mug, some writers have things around their desk that are inspirational or pieces that they need to have.
Yeah.
What would your quirk be? Writing without
I use this dragon. Yeah, I like to dictate my stuff. I use the dragon stuff as much.
Oh, you dictate?
Yeah, dictate it.
Does that work for you? Because
it works pretty well.
Yeah.
It's not perfect because you still have to go in and sort of rearrange it. And I don't use it a lot in editing, but I still do use it. So that, I suppose that's what I do.
Yeah.
And then if I get stuck, I go for a wander and have a look at what's in the fridge and do stuff like that. And then I might ask Marilyn something about something I'm thinking about, but usually you have to answer all that stuff yourself.
Yeah.
You're doing the book.
Yep.
And you do a lot of thinking, and I think sometimes I wake up at night and do a lot of thinking about characters and what they should do and that. Yeah. So it's an ongoing process, a process that just keeps you going.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, have you ever thought about, or would you consider using a pseudonym or a pen name? Have you ever had that option?
Yeah, very often. I have a good one, which is called Samuel Reece.
Yeah.
Which Marilyn wants me to use, right?
Yeah.
But I said, oh no. And my name's okay, but it's my name's Reece Samuel Pocock, right?
Yeah.
So if I use Samuel and use Reece, which is Reece is a surname everywhere.
Yeah.
It might sound better. And I don't know. What do you think?
Samuel Reece.
Yeah.
I don't know. You can put PhD on the end of it. Will it give it some credibility?
Well, this thing I've got, I do have a couple of letters, but I've never used them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's fine. I don't mind. I mean, it's a preference. I guess it depends on how you perceive yourself and your level of publicity and the exposure you want publicly. I mean, that's what pen names are for. They're really a discretionary thing. So, if you're comfortable with it and you've got an open book policy, I think you are connected quite well to some of your readers and feedback's been pretty direct to you. How's that been? How have you found the communication with the readers?
Not a lot as much as I'd like. I have a few, and most of it comes from the US because they write about it, or they talk to you, or they get on Facebook, or they get on social media. It's funny about that. I've often thought that I think authors are put right up on a pedestal, and when somebody comes along and writes the thing, you think, oh, he's not going to be able to. These guys are rock stars.
Yeah.
So I think locally you don't get appreciated as much as you could, and they don't read your books anyway. So
yeah. I think in the last 20 years that perception has changed a lot due to the opening of doors with self-publishing.
Yes.
But it's also opened a lot of negative doors as much as created positives. I think a lot of writers get lost in the tsunami of self-publishing. They need to be there needs to be a filter.
Yeah.
And I think that's where small house publishers are helping authors get a little bit better more credibility and a bit better profile, which is good for Australia as well, Australian authors.
Yes.
So when you're writing, what would you say is your writing kryptonite? Like, the thing that you would say can stop you dead in writing tracks?
Oh, yeah, there are a couple of times then you sort of lean back and say, hell, that's good. I think I do dialogue pretty well. Yeah. And a lot of my writing friends think I write about war very well.
Yeah.
And then I try to do romance. I don't know how good I am at it, but I try that comes out okay. But yeah, I think dialogue and writing about war, and sometimes you just get that sentence there that says, gee, I wrote that.
So curiously, you said there that you don't generally find your romance being the strength, but yet Refugee is very romantic in its
yes, it is
in its format.
It is.
The lady is very well pursued by the gentleman.
It is.
So you've obviously consciously made the effort to make it more romantic and more a war trauma story, which still is effective.
Yeah. No, I think that's. Yes, I'm pretty proud of that. I think I did that quite well. So
yeah, I think it came out great.
Yeah, yes, I agree with that.
Yeah,
and yes, but you know, you asked me what I thought I excelled at. Well, you know, that's probably what it was. But,
you think it suits a story? Sometimes your style, for you as a writer, you write the story the way it needs to be written, as opposed to how sometimes you want it to be written. Because when you're writing it, you have to decide how that story is going to evolve and become, you know. And so sometimes the romance, not your strongest suit consciously, because you think, oh, you know, I'm not really great at romance writing.
Yeah.
But yet, you know, it needs to have that element. So that maybe is a growth in that writing for you.
Yeah, I think so. And I think what happens is the characters are driving it.
Yeah.
And you have to almost become that character.
Yeah.
Even if it's a woman, you have to sort of become her. What would she want this guy to do, and would she be happy with him, or that sort of thing? And I think that helps a great deal if you think, well, yeah, I'm thinking about this person who's pursuing me, and yes, I like him, but you know, and with Elaine in that story, she is having a lot of trouble with her mother. So, yeah, and the mother's character, which I based her on my own mother, but my mum was a lot nicer than she was. Thank God.
Yeah, I was going to say, thank goodness for that. Did you hide? Do you hide any little secrets in your books, like little things that each book has some signet of you, the readers, you know, fans recognise? Do you have that sort of habit, or do you not? I mean, if you do you do?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of my writing is fairly in your face.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's done directly.
Yeah.
There's not a lot. Well, there's description and that, but I don't like to go too far with description. I like to get right back into the story.
Yeah.
A lot of the famous novels you read are really into description.
Yeah.
Description. But but I found. Yeah, I like to keep out of it a bit.
Yeah.
And I don't like to go too deep into a character.
Yeah.
You know, because it's about the story and getting on with the story, getting on with the plot, keep it going.
Yeah.
So that the readers may be in bed. Well, I don't want him to go to sleep. I wanted to keep reading. You know.
Yeah.
So it's all about what I think the reader would like.
Yeah, I've done that a lot actually. I read a book and I don't want to stop, and that's
yeah, I know, I do too.
And that's good if you're conscious of that too as a writer, trying to create that environment for your readers to immerse themselves in.
But somebody will yell at you and say, "Aren't you going to turn the light out?"
Yeah. I found it very hard to read Tom Clancy myself. His books, his storylines were great, but the dialogue, the content of his books was so over. Exploratory that I just couldn't enjoy it as much as I wanted. So I took a few pages, and that's good that you're conscious of that you're consolidating a lot of the need to have information to the information relevant to the story.
Right. Yes. I agree.
Yeah.
And of course, that I thought that comes from crime writing too.
Yeah.
Crime writing is very much like that. Not too much description. Well, all these books that are reading winning all the prizes are fairly well heavy into description, but they get on with the story.
Yeah, and it depends on the description, of course. Like, I mean, there's a lot of stuff too in the Hunt for Red October, as Tom Clancy is an example. There's a whole submarine chapter. I mean, I was not an engineer, so I didn't really care about the submarine directly. I was more or less worried about what happened to the guys on it. So again, keeping conscious of that writing style of story is paramount, and you did that really well in Refugee, because you did use the characters and use what was relevant about the character in the story, not all the elements of the wars and the machinery, technology.
Right, that's true.
So
I hope so.
Yeah, no, you did well. That's good. Yeah. So one of the things too, if a film was made of your book Refugee, what famous actor or actress would you say could play your main characters? Would you see?
Yeah, well, Liam Neeson could be a good German.
Yeah. Well, he's already been one in Schindler's List. That's sort of like, he'd be like the same character, wouldn't he?
Maybe, yeah, he was.
Yeah. Tom Keneally stole him.
And Hugh Jackman probably could be the Australian, things like that. By the way, I don't know whether you know, but I have got a film script written of it.
Yeah.
I changed it a bit, but
yeah,
but that could be resurrected.
Well, hang on, keep it under the table.
Yeah, I do. Keep it on the hard drive. I lost all the bloody hard drive.
So now Refugee's out, and what are you hoping readers gain from it the most for you? Like, what would be making you happy?
Obviously to be entertained.
Yep.
Because that's what we're in the entertaining business.
Absolutely.
But I don't really want any lofty ideals about it. It's a good story. That's what it is.
Yep.
And also, I think it would let Australians particularly know a bit of their history.
Yep.
If you ask a lot of young people about, say, Elaine, well, where's that, or what's that? You know, that's it. But of course, I'm writing about probably a very interesting part of our history.
Yes.
And World War II. I don't know how many books have been written about World War II. Thousands.
Yep.
All different things.
But that's why
not a lot about Australia's involvement. No,
there wasn't. There were elements of the Japanese Australian War, like happening in Darwin, so close to home.
Yes,
the German input to Australia was not hugely documented as much as we probably were more involved. But that's why I say where you brought the German to the Australian continent, which was good. And as I said, you brought that story into Australia as opposed to the Australian going to Germany. And then that's been told a lot. You reversed that, which I liked. So that's very good.
And the other thing too, I think was really important was to treat Germans like humans. Yeah, I thought that was really important.
Yeah, well, they were. There was a very small percentage of the German population, or in the war, that was in that spell.
Yes.
And I don't think all Germans need to be cast into that category. Unfortunately, that was just a propaganda from the movies and the media before all the facts came out. And it's good that you understand they were people in situations that were out of their control in any situation like that.
Yeah, exactly.
No, they did well, and they were soldiers too, which is again a sad part of it is that they were young soldiers who didn't have choices and didn't understand everything.
Well, there's always this: if they were better led, would they have won? So
that's right.
They were very good soldiers.
They were. Yes. But thankfully, the world didn't allow that.
Right. Yes, that's right.
But anyway, that's all I have to talk about with you tonight, Reece. Is there anything you'd like to cover or say about the book?
I think it's a good read, and I hope people like it. I'm sure they would. I'm sure they would, and I'd love them to buy it. But so have a good look, think about it. Just because it's written by an Australian and who's not very well known, hopefully will be much better known. But
So for everybody watching, Reece's book is on the bottom of the screen, so you can actually use that's where you can buy the book for Refugee. Reece Pocock, thank you for your time tonight. Look forward to the next book and the next episode of things to come in the future for you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too.
Very good. Thank you, and good night, and we'll talk again soon.
Okay, thank you.